Hey everybody, it's Ryan from Pi Records, and I'm here with Dorothy Treasure, DJ Dottie, the the wealth of knowledge that she is, and the super happy and positive vibing coming from you. It's so exciting to meet you. I was so glad to chat with you the other day.
I was glad to chat with you too.
So, a number of people suggested I talk to you, Art Burso and Frankie Volcanic,
I
and
don't know why everybody's
Uh, well, I also noticed that you do promote a lot of what's going on in the surf community, and as well as others. So, what got you involved first of all in radio and promotions?
it just kind of happened. So I want to say it was in 2015. Jeff Big Tiki Dude asked me for on behalf of Niels Jensen, who used to run NSSR's North Sea Surf Radio. He asked me, "Hey, are you interested in doing a show?" And I said yes. So it just kind of took off from that. But I've always been a surf music fan. Was It just kind of felt natural from the get-go. And I'm a music lover. I've been a music lover since I was a kid. We grew up listening to all different kinds of music and going to a lot of concerts. Concerts were literally like a several, days a week thing in my family. So I've just always been active in the music world.
Very cool, very cool. So, currently you're at what station are you working from now?
It is a GTF instrumental.
Oh, awesome.
And yeah, I had to ask because I was like, what does GTF stand for? I thought it was like get the F out of here with your instrumental music, with your lyrics, but it's a Russian platform that focuses mostly on electronic music. And Max Tremov, he used to be on, he had his own radio show. And it was, I think he just stopped doing it. And then he decided to just start a radio station. And it kind of took off from there. I think he's been doing it since last year. And it's been pretty successful so far.
Great, great. So is it kind of like Sirius where there's genre related shows on throughout the day?
Well, he runs several shows, but usually it's like North Sea Surf Radio was, which is like a constant stream of great instrumental music. And it doesn't necessarily stick to just surf. It is instrumental music. You're not going to hear any singing, but you do hear nice prompts, from a lot of surf artists, which is great.
Awesome. What interests me is what gets you involved in promoting. I find great interest in marketing, and and that's just because basically I'm a behind the scenes kind of guy. I'm not playing right now, but I find it fascinating, just the overwhelming support of each other, in the surf community in particular, punk rock community as well. But the surf community has a very tight knit group of people. Would you say? Would you agree with that?
Completely. I mean, the nice thing about the surf community is that it literally is worldwide. We have friends all over the world. It's not just inclusive to, this country here, that country here. It literally is a cheerleading team. Everybody's included in all over the world. So that's the beauty of it. I go to a lot of the music festivals, well, the surf music festivals specifically around the world. And all throughout the years, I've met so many wonderful people, not just musicians, but, just fans. And you become family. It really is a family in a familial setting. When you see each other, it's like, you're right back at home with the people and the people
Yeah.
who passion that you do, and it's a lovely thing. We're very lucky to have this kind of community that not only do the musicians love to play the music, but the people who go to the shows all over the world are just as enamored with the music and the passion of the music itself.
It seems like not only the listeners are the fans take an active role in the community, not just as listeners. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think so too. A lot of people love to promote it, love to write about it. It really does remind me of, punk in the 80s and 90s. It was like the whole do-it-yourself thing where you promote your own band, you put out your own album sometimes, and it has that feeling where it's like, well, I see a need for this. I'm going to make it. I'm going to create it.
Awesome. So I want to step back and I want to talk about where you got your start. What radio station did you kind of cut your teeth on? And were you playing surf right off the back and instrumental music, or was it more mainstream, like the grind of the day? Playing. You know what I mean, like the radio circuit.
Yeah, no, I started with North Sea Surf Radio, so it's a pretty recent thing. However, I've always had ties with the music industry. I work on the back end like you. So at the same time that I was working at North Sea, I was doing entertainment logistics. So, I was working with these big bands. It wasn't like do-it-yourself bands. It's the guys that, do multi-million-dollar tours. And it just kind of fell naturally. It was just, a progression into the same thing. Home and life, work and home is the same love.
Totally. I have a background in radio. My father was a DJ. He used to do events, and he also was on the radio for his whole life since he was 16. So I have a very close connection to the 60s and 70s music. I used to go to the store when my dad would buy vinyl for his gigs, and like I'd pick up something like I don't know, Purple Rain in the baggie, the purple vinyl from,
Yeah.
and he would be picking out Sloop John B or something like that. And
I feel the same way in an aspect. My mother or my dad, they weren't DJs, but everybody in my family are just avid travelers and music lovers. And it wasn't ever just one type of genre. We had a massive music collection growing up, and there was no holds barred. It wasn't like you cannot listen to this, you cannot listen to that. It was like, if you want it, we'll get it for you. And if we don't have the money right now, we'll find the means to buy it for you later. So we just were constantly, inundated and listening to music, even just hanging out at home. Right now, it's the only time I actually don't have music on because I'm talking to you. So it's a constant stream. Not only would we go to shows as family, like all together as a family, but we would also go music shopping a lot. And I mean, music and libraries, that was like our thing. We'd go get books. We'd actually, check out music at the library as well. And then we would hit up some places here, because I grew up in Los Angeles. So at the time, there was just, and in Hollywood, no less. So there was just a mega amount of amazing record stores that we would just go up and down the street shopping at every store. It was great.
And you did that as a family?
I'm sorry?
You did that as a family?
Yeah, we would go all together. We would just go shopping. And usually it was at least once a month that we would go and go music shopping. Other families have other traditions, other things they do together. That was our thing.
I love that. I think that's so great. And definitely a positive influence from your parents. So kudos to them.
They were great people. But yeah, we always had music playing at home. And I think the nicest thing was that they never, it was kind of everything is permissible situation. So if we wanted, things with explicit records, they would sit us down and explain to us, okay, this is not necessarily for your age range. However, we're going to let you listen to it. And if you don't understand what's happening, let's talk.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of discourse about music in general. It wasn't even just that. We would talk about why we liked something. I went through
Yeah.
a phase when I was a kid of just opera. And
Uh-huh.
so, my mom would like ask us, well, what is it that you like about this? And I would write her, love letters about Placido Domingo or, Beverly Hills. It was I don't know if that was normal, but that was what we did. Like we would just talk about music, talk about it. And we always listened to instro ever, ever since we were small. My family, my mother was from Ecuador. And so there was always danceable music, instrumental music. I grew up listening to stuff like Los Bell Kings and Los Yetis, like different bands of the era where she grew up in the 60s. And of course, we heard the Ventures, we heard, the stuff that was on the radio.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of the Ventures, Blue Moon is like my favorite surf song. And it has to be their version of Blue Moon.
It is a beautiful version. It is.
It's incredible. And it's tough as it is to play, I figured out how to play it because I love the chords so much.
Ooh, have you recorded yourself? I want to hear.
No, I can play it, but I'm not like them, you know.
Okay. So yeah, there's just so many. The funny thing is that, what I love most about the genre and the era is that there's so many songs that people reinterpret. And when they play it, it's like you're hearing a brand new song. It's
Yeah.
completely different. So
Yeah.
they've put in their flair, they've put in their technique into it. And, sometimes what was maybe, a mundane song is completely blown away by somebody else.
Yeah. Uh I particularly with surf, a lot of other instrumental music as well, but I love how um like speaking on behalf of the Ventures in Blue Moon, but I think this goes across the board, the melody that the guitar takes with the vocal line is very could be interpreted in a million different ways, and they always put a unique spin on it. And it's very exciting to listen to that interpretation.
That's why I actually like instrumental music so much, because it lends itself to interpretations in different ways that, vocalizing a song wouldn't. And it touches you in a different way, it just like will grab your heartstrings in a different way. That song is just, it's a tear inducer. It really is. It's just, there's something so beautiful about it. And as much as I love the doo-wop version, it's not, it
Yeah.
doesn't exactly catch me the same. That one I want to do some crazy Three Stooges dancing to, but
Yeah.
not their version of Blue Moon. The version of Blue Moon just like captures you. It like captivates you, and it's very touching.
Very much so. Very much so. I get chills thinking about it.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, I did actually. I was getting goosebumps thinking about it too. That's
so
pretty funny.
yeah, I actually have the original 45 from my dad's collection.
Oh, that's very cool.
I think it was a B side though. I don't think it was the A side.
I can't
Um,
remember anymore. But I do remember hearing it when I was a kid. It was on one of the Venture's greatest hits,
yep,
and my mom picked it up at one of those. We used to go to those back alley sales for the warehouses that used to like take
yeah,
back the ones that, the records that didn't quite make it anywhere else, and they all had a hole in the end and, in the
yep.
corner. And we would just nuts. So I remember that was one of the ones that we had.
I would
I
hate
think
to
I may
be
have played that.
I would hate to be the guy that's got to drill that hole in that 45.
Yeah, could you imagine? Bummer.
Yeah. So what sort of things, other than the festivals, I'm sure the surf guitar festival that goes on in Southern California is a big part. Jeff, how do you guys work together to get the word out about that? I know it's pretty big already, but informing
Yeah,
people about it.
everybody puts the word out about it. And that's the beautiful thing, coming back again to the community effort that goes into surf. It's not just Jeff, of course, puts it on. He, accumulates like all the bands that are going to play, and he always has ideas of who he wants, or usually it's like, 2 years out, he already knows. But everybody puts their hands into it. John Paul Ballack helps. Do you know who he is? He's
No,
he's
ma'am.
is for the Insect Surfer and a million other bands, and he also has a show. He also has a radio show on Luxuria Radio.
Oh,
So it's called Fiberglass Jungle. It's a wonderful
oh,
show. I
yes.
think it's been running now for 7-8 years,
Yeah, that one I
So
know.
he helps, his lovely wife Marie helps, other people come in and people volunteer, and it's all friends, people in the community. Everybody comes together to help put this show. Um, everything from like helping out by like lending the back line to, helping bring in a drum set. People donate their stuff and their time. And it's a full day. I mean, it's a full 2-day event. So it's an ongoing process for 2 days. And even we're enjoying it, but we're also very tired.
Wait,
There's a lot of work and a lot of love that goes into it.
when you work the shows like that, do you ever get free time to yourself to actually listen to the bands you want to hear?
I actually will schedule like working the table or doing whatever I need to do, to actively sit down and watch what I really want to watch. But the nice thing about, shows like that is that even beforehand, there's shows happening a week before or 2 weeks before, and then even going into a week after.
Oh,
So if I don't have the opportunity to see somebody right then and there, chances are that I'm going to see them. And regardless, I'm going to see a lot of bands, within that time frame. So we try to go to all the shows.
yeah.
And
It seems like that would make sense because if they're in town for the festival, they could pick up a few gigs while they're staying.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And usually directly after that is Tiki Oasis, which Jeff also helps like, get some surf bands, for that festival. And so it literally becomes like 2 weeks of like music magic fest. It's so much fun.
It sounds
There's
great.
just
I want to take my kids to LA. Because we used to live in California, and
uh-huh.
you'll never experience anything like LA unless you go. And that's one of the things
Yeah.
I want to take them to the all the shows and stuff out there. I would love to meet all you great folks, and I think that would be a good experience for them. Seeing all the people that I kind of met along the way playing in bands. We have a very musical family as well.
Oh,
Um,
that's great.
yeah.
Well, the
Um,
nice thing about, Surf Guitar Fest is that it really is a family event. So you see children there, you see whole families there. Kids are dancing, having a good time. There's food, the music, and usually it's held at a place, well, for a couple of years, it's been held at a place called Alpine Village. So if you need to step away from the music for a little bit, you can go walk around, go shopping, and I don't know where it's going to be held now. So we're waiting to find out, once the whole COVID situation gets a little more reeled in,
yeah.
when this, it'll be able to occur again. Hopefully, hopefully next year we will, well, it'll be back in full steam.
Yeah.
That'll be a good thing.
Do you mind if I get technical for a little bit?
Okay.
Because I
I can't say that I can help you.
well, I'll start off slow. What is your preferred medium to play on your station? Be it vinyl, digital, cassette?
I do it all on my computer. And I've converted records to digital so that I can just knock it out easily. I'm not a technological wizard, I don't know how to work a lot of these programs. So I just go with Bandcamp and just like GarageBand, and just put my show together in there. It's the easiest form for me, so that's what I use.
What do you use a mixer, or is it strictly editing?
It's just strictly editing. So it's really simple, like I said, I'm not a wizard at it. I mean, I can play instruments, but I just kind of learned, I fudged through it and figured out what's the optimal
Yeah.
level, like what sounded best to me.
Yep.
And then ran it by somebody and was like, how does this really sound? Like somebody who actually knows, and they're like, it's okay. Your voice sucks a little bit right there, but it's not bad. I was like, oh, good. That's what I'm sticking to.
It's so awesome. I love the I went and grabbed a picture for this podcast from your profile, and there's this great picture that somebody drew of you with the records in the air.
Oh yeah. What's the name of that artist? His name is Antonio Tavares.
It- It's pretty
He's
sweet.
actually a commercial artist. Yeah, I really love that picture. He's like, I kind of gave him the idea, and then he kind of just ran with it. So it's a cute picture. I like that.
I love it. I love it. So more on the technical side, or shall I say reception, where exactly can they hear you do your show, and what times, or is it kind of like an evergreen thing where they can pick it up at any time?
Well, I usually post the show from the week prior on SoundCloud. So I have a SoundCloud page, and generally I have, the link is on my page on Facebook. It's also like I'll put the link on when I put the announcements for the show. And for GTF Radio, though, if you want to hear it, as it happened, it's on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And then there's two replays. One's at Sunday at 3 p.m. and the other one is on Wednesday at 3 a.m. So for those people, the vampires out there that, are up at 3 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I got the show for you. But that's when it runs on the actual radio station. But, I mean, nowadays, since it's all about convenience, of course, I do post it on SoundCloud so that, people can hear the show of the week before.
Awesome. And they can a lot of cars have Bluetooth now, so they can listen to that show on their way to work.
They can listen to it anywhere, in the shower, in the pool. Don't take your speakers into the pool, anywhere they want.
So awesome. So what gave you the idea to I don't want to say invest your time in radio, as that particular part of being a part of the community? Why did you choose radio as opposed to either playing or promoting? Or
Well, I think it was kind of just, it was a thing where it was happenstance. It was just offered to me. And then I realized, I kind of like doing this. This is fun. And it helps that I have a pretty big collection. So I definitely have a lot of music to share. And my sister, one day we were chatting about it, because I brought it up with my family and asked, what do you guys you guys think about this? And they were like, you have a lot of music. Maybe you should share it. Why wouldn't you share the deep cuts that you have? Why wouldn't you share the stuff with other people? Maybe there's songs that they haven't heard. Maybe they've been wanting to hear a song for a long time, but can't remember the name. So
Oh
play it
yeah.
on the radio. So I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Okay, I'll run with it. So it was just kind of, it just fell naturally that it happened and it was offered. And so I just went with it.
And that's one of the things that makes things so natural when it doesn't have to be, or so good, is when it doesn't have to be forced. Even if you fall
Yeah.
into it by accident, uh kind of like this podcast, I kind of fell into it by default to to talk to people about what it is that I'm interested in. And it was strictly
Oh,
just to do music, like to talk about music, because the kids are at school, the families, the my wife is working, at work, people, I'm in TV, so there's not a lot of chit chatting about music at a TV station. So it's kind of great to hear that you kind of got into it the same way and have a passion for it, kind of in the same way that I do, and I think that's great.
it's fun. I mean, there's nowhere else where you get to kind of, it's an intimate thing. You get to share a huge part of yourself, of what you love and your passion, which for me, of course, and like it's music. And it's nice to chat about it. It's nice to be around people who are other fanatics. That's always fun.
Yeah,
And share the things that you have, because it's so shareable, especially instrumental music. With surf, nobody's singing, nobody's telling you what to think. You feel it however you're going to feel it. You're going to interpret it however you're going to interpret it. But somewhere in the world, someone loves that same song, and you have that connection. You may not know them yet, but you will have that connection with them the day you meet them, because hey, I love the Ventures Bluebird too. It's
yeah,
one of those things where, and you're like, yay, high five.
yeah.
And that's the beauty of music in general. It's a language we can all embrace.
That's a very interesting point you made. Me coming from a punk rock background, where a lot of the bands um, use their music as a vessel to get their
Mhm.
message out, and that doesn't sit well with some people, and other people it does sit well with, depending on your point of view. Um,
Yeah.
Use that as a platform. A lot of musicians do, but the cool thing about Insta, like you said, is there's nothing but the music. There's
Yeah.
no, there's nothing jarring about it that's going to turn people off. It's very welcoming.
I think for some people, though, the jarring thing is they're like, nobody's saying anything. What's going on here? Like they're just like, I don't know, what are they trying to say? And that's the thing. We're so accustomed. We're so like, it's so ingrained into us that when we hear music, somebody has to say something to us. Somebody has to tell us how they feel. And I'm all for it. That's great. But there are times in the day where you just want a beautiful melody and you just want to enjoy it and just eat it. You just want to imbibe it. And you don't need anybody to tell you anything. You just kind of enjoy that. And I think that's the beauty of Instro, that it lends itself to that, that you can just enjoy it. It's not going to offend you.
Yep.
I mean, I grew up listening to punk too. I mean, some of the things my mom would be like, oh my God, EGL, and oh my gosh, but you play some intro and nobody's gonna say, they're like, oh, that's nicer. Oh, that's I don't really like that. Everybody has their own opinion about it, but it's not like they can say, well, those lyrics are gonna,
Right, right.
those are gonna hurt the economy. Well, no,
Mhm.
nobody said anything. You just played some really nice lines.
Now, earlier you said you're always listening to music when except for now when we're doing this interview, what were you listening to right before you got on with me?
I was listening to Guided by Voices, and then before that, Mr. Kitty.
Oh,
And before that, I was listening to V&V Nation. I just kind of have a lot, I listen to a lot of different kinds of music.
um, so I want to thank you um, for opening my eyes to your part in the community. Um, but what I want to touch on is the different subgenres of instru music. There's tiki
Oh,
lounge.
okay.
How involved, or I shouldn't say how involved. Um, Tell me your take on the different the different subgenres, even such as the horror inspired surf.
I love horn spiders. Well, for me personally, and definitely I can't speak for anybody else, all is permissible. I am not a purist. Not to say I don't love reverb. Of course I do. That's why I love the genre. However, I want to hear it interpreted in different ways. I want to see, I love when people just push the envelope. They just, find they found the sound, but they want to, fold it in with something else. And that really gets me going. I love it. I love hearing, people intermingle the sounds because it's how they have interpreted, how they feel it, and how they want you to to imbibe it as well, so it changes. I love that the face changes, and that if you don't particularly like reverb, which some people don't, I don't know many, but you can turn to another direction and listen to horror surf, or you can listen to, lounge, or you can listen to more, of the exotica, or you can listen to any different type of genre. And, the music lends itself to that, because every place that you go, people are going to interpret it with a different, with their flair. So you listen to sound, a lot of the bands from Germany, let's say, and you hear a bit of that influence, and you hear the bands from Italy and you hear that influence as well. And it's amazing, because you all of a sudden, it's almost like they have revitalized a sound that you've heard constantly, but in a completely different way. It's the same thing, but different. So that's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it beautiful. And for, music that people really didn't think was going to go far, and was, part of the teenage crowd, essentially, in the 60s, in the beginning of the 60s, it's gone very far. It's still listened to all over the world. And, for folk music, it's doing pretty good,
Yeah,
I'd say,
yeah, I would say
considering
so.
that, yeah. Or, oh my gosh, you go to Central South America and hear the music over there, go to Mexico, and it's just amazing. It becomes dance music. It's well, it is dance music, I guess, technically, everywhere you go, but it's, and everywhere you go, it's a different type of scene. So, here in the US, it's, the demographic is a lot older. A lot more men here, and you go to places like Europe and, Mexico, and it's like completely a different demographic. I'm a grandmother all of a sudden. I'm standing in, I went to a Wildo Fest a couple of years ago. Oh, and I also went to go see Messer Chubbs play over there. And I'm standing there and I'm like, oh my gosh, tie your shoes, put on this one. I literally felt like I was a grandmother, because it was a young crowd, a lot of women at the show, a lot of young girls, women playing on stage, which, I mean, there's a lot of bands with women on stage, but, over there I saw two bands, so it was just, blows you away. It makes you feel fantastic. And, it was so lively. People are dancing, as opposed to here, there's a lot of musicians. So you see a lot of people, standing back, just with their arms crossed, like, oh, that was a wrong note, everyone's, like, maybe they're not, trying to judge, but, it kind of happens with musicians where you're just like, that, that sounds good, good job. As opposed to they're just like feeling the music. They don't, sure, people played wrong notes, but nobody cares. Everybody's dancing and having a good time. Or in Europe as well, that's the audience there is also very mixed, a lot of different ages. You go to, Lorenzo Surfer Joe's, the Surfer Joe Festival, and it's just families. It's so much fun. It is just amazing. And it covers a little bit for everybody because he has like seminars, like technical seminars, as well as, just music. And it's all different kinds of surf. So it's, it's a little bit for everybody. Like some people love the, harder surf that's a bit more metal or a bit more like punk sounding, like the stuff coming out, there's a lot of nice bands from like France, Arnaud de Sea, if you've heard him, or from Brazil, the Mullet Monster Mafia. And they just, amazing, amazing hard sounds, and for some people, that's what gets them going. And others love the, beautiful, like soft melodies. And, that for the, we have like Les Agamemnons from France, or just, the melodic. So it's nice to be able to like see a lot of different bands like that and see how people react all over the world to them. So
Yeah,
it's a different audience.
I love when a particular band I listen to, I'll use the Volcanics as an example, where they don't just stick to one formula. They have a variety, and a specific song, Russian Roulette, blew my mind, and because it was really, really fast. The drums were fast. It was an unusual tempo, and when I first heard it, it was kind of like, wow, these guys are doing something different.
I've had a love affair with their music for many years. The first time I heard them, my best friend Dave was actually working at a supermarket with Frankie. And he told me one day, he was like, one of my coworkers, he has a band, and it's that music you like, like that old sounding, like old timey music. And I was like, okay, I'm I'm expecting some kind of ragtime band. I don't know, I don't know what he thinks I love. But then he hands me the Volcanic CD, their first CD. And I was like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love this. This is fantastic. So it's been years of a love affair with them because they really do capture that. They capture the LA sound. They capture, what's happening in LA and East LA, and the music that, the kids were dancing to at the time. And when they play, they capture that feeling too. I actually took one of my older family members to one of their shows, and they were kind of tearing up when we were heading home. And they were like, that's how the shows used to be. That's how it used to be when I was a kid. So it was very touching to hear that and be able to experience it with him, because, it's, we have a big generational gap. So, it's nice that he was able to kind of recapture his youth in that moment.
That's really cool. So I want to talk basically because I'm curious, and people that might be familiar with surf might not be familiar with the other subgenres. There's two that I'm that I'm interested in, is the tiki and exotica. How would you describe those two genres in relation to instru music?
I think they fall pretty naturally into instru music because they are also within the realm of, instrumental. It's not that far of a hop, skip, and jump from it. So it lends itself to it. It's just kind of, adding a bit of different instrumentation within some of the songs, because even surf songs can be converted to, that kind of loungy, exotic sound, like you hear bands like Tiki Orchestra, or Tiki 5.0, and it lends itself to the sound. It's it kind of accumulates into the whole instrumental genre. And then there's just like flippets of, what can sound a little bit surfy as well. Or bands like the Blue Hawaiians, if you've heard them. They also capture that, where you're like, one minute you're just like, you feel like you're lounging, smoking a pipe, somewhere. And next thing you know, all of a sudden you're on a wave, and
Yeah.
you're on a wave in a dark sea. And it's great that there are bands that can capture different sounds that way. Or the Banduras are another band that come to mind right now, where they really envelop that. But then there's also bands that, are considered just trad surf, that to me, it gives you that feeling of that beautiful loungy, like far away, exotic feeling. Like you hear some of the Fathom songs and they're just, frankly, Blondino on the guitar is like, he takes you away. He just absolutely takes you away to another landscape, and you feel like you're in the presence of lounge, but you're in the presence of surf. So, so it kind of, intermingles in that way.
One it's very interesting. One of my favorite Pixies albums is Bossa Nova. Probably
Okay.
I could probably say that's my favorite, and that the reason for that is because of the surf influence on it.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of bands at that time were looking to the 60s, um, especially bands that were similar to the Pixies, but that album in particular,
It's
um,
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah,
I feel like, it was like that resurgence of the 60s, like in the second wave that happened in the 80s, and then, the third wave in the 90s. Everybody was looking back to that same era and folding in those influences. And it was a lovely thing, just being, a fly on the wall and going to shows and being able to see bands like that, to hear that sound on
yeah,
stage. Because, when you hear a record, like you hear, you listen to the Shantays, or you listen to the original Safaris, or, the Bel Airs, you don't really think, you think this is the music of the past. Like, I'm probably not going to see bands that sound that way nowadays, maybe Imagine Dragon, you know what I mean? You're not going to see them on stage. But to actually see stuff like that played live, it transforms it. It makes it timeless. And that's what we have had the fortune to see and still see now, luckily, because I think the third wave kind of just like, it went a little down and then it just kind of kept going.
yeah.
So the scene isn't as huge, but it still exists.
It's speaking to that, of past music. What I found really cool is in the mid 2000s, my mom got on this kick where she was going to go to see a lot of shows, and I would go
Uh-huh.
with her. But they were all doo-wop bands,
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, you
and
lucky man.
it was like Johnny Maestro and all those guys,
Yeah.
and I'm one of those guys that can get behind stage and get to meet the band. I'll just sneak around until I get in trouble. And I got my mom to meet Johnny Maestro.
That is awesome. Do you have pictures with him?
No, because that was before the cell phones. The cell phones.
Yeah,
The,
you didn't take your disposable, it's like
uh,
somebody.
it was it was at a local high school, and like this guy
Oh,
was super famous, and my mom's like, "You don't have to go if you don't want to." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I'm gonna go see this doo-wop band."
that's awesome. With my other job, it was really it was like kind of living like a dream come true, because I got to meet a lot of my idols. I got to meet a lot of people that I was like, well, I'm never gonna, I'm never gonna meet that person. And then there they were, and I'd be like, oh, hello, hi, yeah, I'm moving your gear. It was always very, it was always humbling and surreal to, be able to do that. And, I'd have to play it cool, of course. I'm not cool, but I'd have to play it cool. And,
It's
but
difficult,
then when
right?
yeah, when I'd get a moment alone, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I was on Iron Maiden's plane, just like the
Ah!
thing experience, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to, you can't process it at the moment, and then you tell somebody and they're like, what a liar, and you're like, no, I really was. Yeah. It's
I would love that.
but yeah.
I right before COVID, I scratched that off my bucket list. I finally got to see Iron Maiden.
Oh man. Yeah, so the company I was working for, we would run Iron Maiden's gear. And there was a gentleman that worked for, it's a worldwide company. So he would travel with, with them and, schlep the gear all over the world on their plane, of course. And, but sometimes you have to like pull stuff, from other places, that they might need for the night or what have you. And so, I was taking care of a couple of things, and then I got to go to the shows, like a couple of the shows. And it was like a dream come true. I took Jeff Big Tiki Dude actually, with me. I was with another coworker, and she's actually a photographer. She takes pictures for a lot of the big bands, but we were standing there in the, VIP lounge, and Jeff was, he can recognize people off the top of his head. I'm not that good at that. I know their sound, but I can't always like look at somebody and be like, oh, that. But he was just like, that's such and such from Pantera. Oh, look over there. That's, Ram Ding Dong. Like he was just, and I was like, oh my, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm just going to eat Iron Maiden cake. I'm just going to sit here and eat their cake. It was overwhelming. It was also a lovely thing to, Mhm.
Oh no, I was just gonna say their show is a very surreal experience.
They are, because they include puppetry. It's theater. It's
Yeah.
true theater, and that's a fun thing with some music. Sometimes people are like, well, I don't like that music. I don't know how anybody can like it. But then you actually go and watch the show, and you're like, now I know why, because it's an experience.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of shows. It is an experience to go and see a musician, and they put it all out there, and you get to experience that and imbibe it, and like push it back at them. So that's what I love about it. But yeah, the puppetry, I'm sure you
Yeah.
got to see a couple of them, a couple of these come out, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's really easy to see the coordinative effort that goes behind the scenes. Everything that happens behind the scenes is,
It's kind of
it's
hard to
pretty
wrap your head around
crazy. It is, but when you're in the thick of it, you're just doing things, you're just
Yeah.
directing things. I think I've had just one moment where I literally like, I was at a show. It was for what was Desert Days. So it was where Paul, what was his name? No, the Rolling Stones played, and so did, my brain is blanking out. Paul McCartney played, and Neil Young, and I happened to be taking care of some stuff for the Neil Young folk, and we had an issue with the backdrop, so I was coordinating moving that. And then, it was literally like 11th hour situation where it was like, I need to get it there, and to get to a show and to actually see it, the backdrop that you like fought blood, sweat, and tears to get there, and everything that needed to go into it. I was standing there, and like, the backdrop's there, and he's there with Paul McCartney. I'm just like crying, like, I'm crying like I'm at a funeral, but I'm just so happy inside, because it's like, wow, this is part of my efforts, part of what I'm able to do. And nobody knows how hard it is to work in the back end. It's kudos to all those people who do it, because I've been there. I know it. I'm sure you know, at the, where you work as well. Like people don't know. Everything looks so smooth on the outside, but they have no idea what's happened
Yeah,
to get to that moment.
yeah, totally. Yeah, working in TV is a kind of a thankless job. You only hear when you make a mistake or something like that.
Of course. That's the only time anybody knows anything about you. Well, she screwed that up. Your guitar vault is not here. That's the only time you hear about it. Luckily, those times are very, very, very few and far between. So, thank goodness.
Well, I want to thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you and meeting you. I had an idea from just chatting with you online that you were super positive and just very happy go lucky, and it was at this point in my life there's things going on and I really needed this today, and you really brought my spirits up.
Well, I'm glad. For me, the thing is that, I mean, we all have these years, of course, have been really tough on so many of us. We've all experienced a sense of loss in more ways than one. And, that's why I actually restarted doing my podcast, because I realized, well, I want people to be happy. I want them to have something to smile about. We have misery. Misery is always here. We will never get rid of it. But a little bit of joy, a little bit of sunshine, sometimes that it changes your heart a bit. It makes
Yeah,
you move forward and look forward. And I just wanted to do that. So that's why I keep doing this,
awesome.
to just bring the joy.
So you have a podcast too?
Well, happened was, I ended up being on GTF radio, but when I started it, because I had stopped working on North Sea Surf Radio, well, essentially, I'll back up a little bit. So Neil decided to stop broadcasting North Sea Surf Radio, which was sad. A lot of people loved that station. And as soon as he actually announced it, I started getting messages from people asking, well, are you gonna put your shows up somewhere? Well, what's the deal? What's the deal? What's the plan? What do you do? What are you doing? And I had no plan. I mean, I had been approached by one person who was planning on, starting an online radio station, and that fell through because, things happen in life. And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But then I got the ultimate complaint, which was from my niece, who is 7 years old. And she was like, I've already heard these shows. I want to hear new stuff. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay, so I just started, doing a new podcast on SoundCloud, and I realized, okay, what do I need to do to make this, legal first and foremost? So I did all that, and then, I got approached. I did it for a year, and then I got approached this year by GTF Instrumental. And Max was like, hey, you want to kick your show over here? Can we play it? Or, would that be all right? Would you like to do it? I was like, yeah, of course. So that's kind of how it kept going. I just, it was kind of, complaints, and then people had complaints from a little girl, people asking me repeatedly, and, it just
Yeah,
kept going.
kids are brutally honest.
They are, and it hurts. You're like, oh gosh, I love you. I love you so much. Yeah, no,
They
really.
they keep you in check.
They do. They keep it brutally honest. Even if they don't like what you're wearing, they're like, no, that's horrible. Or they'll tell you, my niece, well, my brother-in-law, he's in a couple of bands. And so, our family's very musical. So she'll listen to something and she'll tell you, she'll be brutally honest. She's like, Daddy, I don't like that. It's hard. I don't like it at all. Or when she does like it, we're going to all hear it for a while on a loop, maybe a week or two.
That's
But
all.
yeah, they're the ultimate judges and juries when it comes to.
Yeah.
and with music too. They'll just, if they really don't like it, they will tell you, and they will tell you why. So,
And sometimes they use the phrase "your music."
yeah, you're like, no, it's everyone's. No, that's yours. That's yours alone. Like, oh, okay.
All right, Dottie, I want to thank you so much. I had a blast talking this hour with you, and I'm looking forward to hopefully coming out and seeing the festival in LA. And I would love to meet you and Jeff and Art and all the guys and gals working out there so hard. And I just want to thank you for giving me your time and just doing what you do, because I'm following you now, and I feel like we've bonded in a way.
We bonded over Blue Moon. But
Yeah,
yeah, thank you so much for having me, Ryan. I appreciate it. And thank you for, tuning into my show and following me. I just hope that, I could bring a little bit of sunshine to everybody's, every day. It's, music is the one way that we're able to lift our hearts. It's one of the greatest ways.
it really is. It really is. Thank you, Dottie.
Thank you. And thank you for using the mic with me. I see that you have a
First
brand
one.
new mic. Ooh, I feel so special.
I'm glad it works, because I spent the whole night trying to figure out how to get it to work.
It works. It works very well, actually.
Oh, good. Good.